Ever looked at a blueprint and thought, this is just the beginning of something incredible? Welcome to the Inner Blueprint Podcast, where we believe the most extraordinary builds start with you.
I'm Shawn Feurer,
the Universal Mindset Disruptor.
For over 2 decades, I've turned simple plans into remarkable realities in the home improvement world. Now, I'm here to help you do the same for your life and for your business. Make sure to take some notes, and most importantly, enjoy the ride. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Inner Blueprint, the podcast designed specifically for the home improvement industry, where we share stories of success, how individuals use the power of their mindset in combination with hard work to get better results. And I am beyond excited to have today's guest. This gentleman has been in the roofing industry for over 40 years, a longtime resident of Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania. He's been a prominent figure in the remodeling and roofing industry for 4 decades, accumulating a wealth of knowledge, skills, and a deep understanding of the roofing trade, and also understanding the business side of it. As a former owner of O'Leary Construction, John built a reputation for quality craftsmanship and reliable service. And under his leadership, this company became a trusted name in the local community, known for its commitment to excellence in both residential and commercial projects. And this guest, his story is one of my favorite success stories because he spent 35 years of that 40 on the roof, actually as an installer. We're going to share his success story. I don't want to give any lead into it because I want him to share it personally because it is one of my favorite stories. His enthusiasm for the roofing industry has extended beyond his work, and today he spends his days actively involved with industry associations, regularly attends conferences, and is mentoring and paying back all his success to future generations of the home improvement industry. Without further ado, I'm just going to get him on here and let's get him talking and sharing his story. Welcome to Inner Blueprint, Mr. John O'Leary. What's up, John?
Thanks, Shawn. I really appreciate you having me on today.
Oh, I've been beyond excited to have you on because as we've been talking about, and it's funny, we did a little pre-conversation. I think we talked for longer than the podcast is going to be, just catching up and really diving into what it feels like to be doing what John's doing today. And literally every home improvement contractor I work with, they want to be John O'Leary at some point in their career. They do, John.
Well, like I've always told you that, I wasn't the smartest guy, but, the execution of everything really is what, was my key to getting here.
Yeah. When we first met, you'd gone yourself off the roof. You'd started building a real business. You went from a owner operator doing the work to a business owner. And when you met me, we talked about the fact that you were kind of an unconscious competent. Your mindset was excellent. You were one of the best implementers of process I'd met. But let's just talk a little bit about, I tried to get you thinking bigger. And I have this concept called the worthy goal, or I call it the big inner blueprint goal. And what did you tell me you wanted? What did you really want?
Let's talk about what everybody else wanted. They wanted $10 million houses. They wanted their own planes. They wanted all this, the big, hairy, audacious goal, right?
Yeah.
And when I told you that I just wanted to wake up like I was on vacation, I could see the expression on your face, how you were like, man, that's really lame. Like, there was a bunch of other people on the Zoom and stuff, and it was funny that it took a little while for even me to get it. But of all the things I wanted in the world was I wanted time.
Yeah.
And the only way I could get that time was if I got up in the morning and I was on vacation somewhere and I couldn't decide whether I wanted to go to the beach or the pool or the tiki bar. And that's what being on vacation was like. And there was no responsibility for my decision that I would make.
Yeah.
I felt that I needed to have that because I kind of felt like, this business had consumed both of us to the point that, we needed a true vacation that we could get up like we were on vacation.
Well, and again, when you told me that, it wasn't that I thought it was lame. I told you I think you needed to be more specific and maybe we needed to add some stuff. And I'll never forget, in John O'Leary style, you're like, no, Shawn, that's all I want. I just want to wake up every day and be on vacation, not have to worry about anything, not to have stress, and to have my time. And ultimately, you had a better goal than anybody, right? Because every single person I know, the reason they want the big house, the big fancy cars, behind it all is they want financial freedom, right? And they think having
Right.
the big stuff is going to give them that freedom. But I know a lot of people that have the big stuff and they're not living every day on vacation. So after 35 years on the roof, after 6 years of really building the business, how are you living your days today?
Well, I think I told you earlier, I cut my grass today. And you knew that was something that I probably shouldn't be doing, but you always said that if I enjoyed doing it and it wasn't interrupting anything, that I should continue to do the things. And, I told you I changed the oil in my truck, when I was changing the oil in the trucks, when I was running the business, it was totally the wrong thing that the owner should be doing. It's like $30 at Jiffy Lube, And
Right. Come on, Dylan, value your time. Value your time.
Yeah,
No, you enjoy doing it.
It cost me $40 for the materials, but I enjoyed it, and that was one of the things that I enjoyed doing. But yeah, so we've been traveling, Grenada, Alaska, Western Pennsylvania, upstate New York, the Adirondacks. We talked about the Herkimer Diamonds a little bit. We've been cracking some rocks, and did some time in Atlantic City, and we got lots of stuff, some more traveling planned, and bought the motorhome, and we pull our Jeep around, and
Yeah.
And we're looking forward to getting out.
So, and again, for those of you that don't know, John O'Leary sold his business after 40 years working on the roof, 5 to 6 years of building the business process that made it a sellable, scalable, profitable business. John had that moment that so many business owners hope for. And I was honored that as he made the sell, I got a phone call. And I remember where I was at a cheer comp with my daughters. I stepped out. I said, I got to take this call. I picked it up. And I hear John O'Leary say, guess what, Shawn? Tomorrow morning, I'm waking up and I'm on permanent vacation, man.
But see, if one of your guys call you and say, guess what, Shawn? I bought a $10 million house. It might not have meant as much to you. 'Cause
No.
you knew what that meant. I didn't have to tell you that we had it, that we were successfully done.
Yeah. No, it was a moment I'll always remember because so many people are striving for the stuff and all they want is some time, and that's all you wanted. You just wanted your time to enjoy time with your beautiful wife, Sherry, to travel, to do nothing, to mow your lawn, to change your oil, to go fishing. I mean, those are the cool, important things that so many people overlook, and you get to wake up every day. What are you going to do tomorrow, John? Do you even know?
Well, we pulled the boat today. I always pull my boat before Labor Day weekend, and then I still got 2 sea-doos at the local lake. So I might clean the boat up and stick it in the garage. Get ready. We're going back up to the lake tomorrow night or Friday morning. My niece has been spending some time with us, and I've been mentoring her a little bit, and I bought a Sea-Doo for her, so the two of us go out riding. She's 14, and it's really cool. I mean,
Yeah.
we're I get to do whatever I want to do, and like I said to Sherry, she's like, "What are you gonna do this afternoon?" And I says, "Well, I get to cut the grass today." I still say it that way. I have to, because that's the grateful of being able to do is I get to do it. There's very little that I have to do anymore. Most of it is I get to do it.
And obviously, we're not going to disclose dollar amounts or anything, but when you look at your bank account, at your investment accounts, do you have any worries about money anymore at all?
I don't.
Absolutely not, right?
I don't. And what we did before the sale and before even planning the sale, we got with professionals and we figured out what John and Sherry's number was, because everybody's number is different. And I'm working with some people and I know what their number is, and you have a number, and my number is different than your number, and it doesn't matter if it's higher or lower. And we figured out strategically what the number was, and I made sure that we exceeded it, so that there would be if something came up, we wouldn't have to worry about it. And I'll tell you a funny story. My dad needed a battery for his ATV when he lived in West Virginia, And my mom told them to go sell something to buy the battery. That was never happening. And it's a joke. It's a joke around here. And she was conservative and he wasn't.
Yeah.
And she was the saver, you know. And if she hears this, she's gonna be mad at me, but it doesn't matter. But I knew that I couldn't follow that. I didn't want to spend the rest of my life worrying about finances. And so we strategically got a number, and that's the number we went for. And the company that bought us came back with a new number. And I told them, I said, well, I really appreciate the due diligence you did and everything over the summer, but it's not happening. And it was a good number.
But you had your number. You had it in your mind, and you weren't settled. Yeah.
And Sherry was having a heart attack because she was watching this deal wasn't going to happen. I'm like, what are you worried about? Because our business was set up and it was profitable. And at the end of the day, they gave us our number before the phone call was over. And they also paid me interest on the deferred money. So I actually got more money than when they called and said they wanted to give me less. So it was, and it was a fair negotiation. We both got what we needed. They got the company. I got my number.
Yeah. And like you say, you weren't attached to it because if you kept the company, you had it running pretty smoothly. You were making good money. It's like, I'll get my number or I'll keep running my company and making good money until I get my number, right?
I've been getting up for 35, 38 years, 30, 39 years doing the same thing every day. Is 4 more years going to kill me? Probably not.
No.
So.
And I think when we talk about manifesting, so many people get attached to the unimportant things, and you just went in, you were only attached to one thing, your number, and you were you'd already waited almost 40 years. If it's 4 more years, and I think that's huge. One thing I'd like to share with listeners, because people might be listening to this saying, well, yeah, I want to be John. How do I get to that day when I look at my bank account and I have to blink twice and double check the screen to make sure that's accurate? Let's go back to when you made the decision to get off the roof, right? What year was that?
That was winter of 2017.
Okay, so 2017.
Yep.
And how much revenue had you done basically by yourself as pretty much a solopreneur that year?
I think we were in the 600,000 to 700,000.
Okay, so yep. And that was for 35 years, about that range, right?
Well, it was less. I was learning, like from 30 years to 35 years, I was learning about the sub crews and running the job rather than doing the job. But I was struggling with letting go. I was on the roof flashing chimneys, helping the guys finish at dark. So I was still installing pretty much full time. So
yep. as you made the decision, I'm done being on the roof, I'm going to build a business. What was the first step you took?
I put my tool belt down. I promised Sherry that I would never drive a nail for money again. And to this day, I have not driven a nail or done physical work for somebody for money.
Oh, power of decision. From my mindset work, we talk about the power of making a decision, and you made that decision.
It was tough. Let me tell you, it was tough because I could still do it. I was sore. My body was wore out. But so the first thing that happened is I was selling and running the crews. I was still on the job running the crew, but I wasn't doing any of the work. Just taking the trailer out, the accessories. And Sherry saw that I was really struggling with the phone. So she said, I'll quit my job. She had a really good work from home job. She said, I'll quit my job and I'll take your phone, and you go get a new phone line. And the first day she had it, when I came home, she goes, I don't even know what to say to people when they call, and that's how elementary it was for us going in.
Yeah.
So we went to LeadCon in 2018. It was in Pittsburgh. We met some professionals, you work with some of them, and we learned how to answer the phone. And we hired somebody to do the website. Every vendor that was there, except for if there was 2 website guys, the one guy didn't get our money. But every vendor that was there, we hired because we knew we needed that.
Yes.
And so we bought Tony's brand ambassador program. I still have it. It was on paper, it was like that thick. And so we did what these professionals were to everybody, what they told us to do, because I was dumb to it. I didn't know what to do. So the next step was Sherry, the phone was too much for her. So I said, well, let's hire somebody to answer the phone. We're like, well, where are they going to sit? Not in my house, you know? So there was this little strip mall around the corner. And Sherry said, I am not going to leave a work from home job and go sit in an office all day. So it was a 5-mile limit. So this office is like a mile. So we rented it. I got it for half price because I paid the woman for the year. I took a year lease, and then came sales. I was reading and learning from these other coaches that I had to start taking the things that took up all of my time and find somebody else to do it. And I had all these leads for roofing, and it was taking up my whole day. So I was at the International Roofing Expo, went to a seminar, met this guy. He was a professional sales coach. He was just getting in it. And I hired him. And he trained me and my first sales guy on in-home sales. And I've told this story before on some other podcasts, but when that guy sold that first job, I didn't believe anybody could go out and sell a job for me. And even though that contract came back and it was a mess, I didn't have to go there for 3 hours.
Right.
I was like, we're hiring another one of these guys. And like within a week, we had 2 salesmen and a girl answering the phone. And then it just grew from there. And when we sold the business, I think there was 11 in the office, 3 in the field running trailers. There was 5 or 6 salesmen, and there was 3 main sub crews doing the roofing.
Wow. And you went from 600,000 the year before you started doing this to how much did you do your last year in business?
The last year we sold the business in December. The year was closed out at 6.4 million. And then we're in the top 500. I think it was number 352 or 42 because the new company registered for last year's numbers.
Yeah.
We were in the mid 300s, 350s for top 500, which is, really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. When and your ability to start basically from scratch after that many years in the business with, okay, I need to build a real business, get a sales coach, get the sales system, hire the salespeople, and in 6 years to 6 million, is that right?
Yeah, 6 years was and it's funny because it really happened in like 3, because we paid the dumb tax, Megan. We paid the dumb tax for the first 3 years, but we were like 1.7, 3.2. We were growing, but that was hard. That was like the hardest growth.
Yeah.
And when they tell you that first million is like the hardest to cross that million mark, they don't tell you really how hard that is to break that first million.
Yeah.
And then when you hit like 3 million, you have another glass ceiling to get through. And had I stayed in it, I knew the 6 million range, I had another glass ceiling to break through because I had like a 70% referral rate. My spend on marketing and advertising on 6.4 million was like 3%.
Yeah.
So I knew that I was going to have to start spending money to grow.
And it's interesting though, because your ad spend was very low and people will look at you and they'll only look at the 6 years and they'll say, I want to do what John did. But it's impossible to do what John did without the 35 years of the reputation you built, of the name being known in the community. I mean, to have a 70% referral rate, that comes, and you and I, when we first talked about it and you were just, starting to climb that ladder, I call it the hockey stick, where you're flatlining 35 years and then you start to climb. It's like you have to pay your dues. I mean, if you're listening to this now and you're saying, I want to be like John, for most people, it doesn't happen overnight. You have to pay your dues. You have to do the hard work. And John literally physically did the hard work for 35 years. And then he was able to step out of the business, work on the business, and in a very short time. To try to replicate that exact model, your first 5 years of business is going to be challenging because you're going to spend more than he did on marketing, right?
So, Shawn, I got to quote you.
Yeah.
So this is what you said. I threw seeds in the field for 35 years. And these trees grew had the biggest fruit. And I didn't get paid a dime for all those seeds and all that fertilizer and all that water I gave those seeds. And now, when I changed the business model, I was reaping the rewards of that fruit.
Yes.
In a way that I never knew, but doing good work for 35 years, got that fruit. And I don't know if you remember saying that, but
no, I do. Cause I know some of the stuff I told you, like, Shawn, you're talking this woo-woo new age stuff, but I call it I call it the law of compensation, right? If you plant seeds, and so many people I know, they plant seeds for 20 years. And even in me, you look at what I'm doing right now professionally. I spent over 20 years in the industry. I've spent 10 years coaching. I've added a lot of value to a lot of people's lives. I didn't always get paid what I was worth. I didn't always reap the benefit, but I know this principle and I believe in it. And the last 2 years, my trees are starting to grow and the fruit's starting to come in my lap.
Yep,
and
exactly.
I know I deserve it because I planted the seeds for so damn long. And it's frustrating. If you're in that point, if you're at that point where you're saying, where's my stuff? I've been working my butt off. Just know it's coming. You don't control the timing of the source, but you go out there, you serve people, you have good work ethic, you have integrity. And these are all the things that John O'Leary represents to me as hard work. I mean, even to this day, we were talking beforehand, this guy, he doesn't have to worry about money. He's still going to his gas station at the end of the month to get bonus points and fill his car up because that's how he's wired. He's just a practical, logical guy. I love it.
Well, and it makes sense, and the thing is the growth that we had was because we made decisions. And I have this friend, Scott Berman. Not a lot of people know who he is.
Yeah.
But he said that he stole this from somebody, and he was on stage, I think it was 2019, 2020, is you can be wrong, but don't be wrong for long.
No.
and then a year later, I heard somebody say, make a decision. And then if it goes bad, make another one quick to fix it. And, that stuff, that's stuck with me. And Scott and I are really good friends now.
I love that.
And we, and he doesn't believe, it's hard for him to believe how much he influenced me with one sentence.
Yeah.
Was just go do it and find the professionals and execute what they're giving you to do. Even you, what you told me to do. And I couldn't wait. I waited from June of 23 to December 15th to call you when we had the closing to tell you that I'm getting up like I'm on vacation. That was like my most important phone call. You knew before my mother knew.
Oh,
And
I got emotional when I got the news because, I put so much into my clients, and if I'm trying to help you with your mindset, I want to see you achieve it, right? I mean, I even though we talked about I questioned you, I knew you'd end up living on vacation, but the amount of money you ended up getting in such a short amount of time, it kind of defies logic a little bit. It's everything I do in mindset. It's not logical that you could do that in such a short amount of time and start living on vacation, but holy shit, John, you did it. Like, you did it. And I loved being able to speak with Sherry for a minute beforehand. I mean, you guys are, you're like little kids. Like, what are we going to do next? I don't know. What should we do? Let's go have some fun.
No, she's doing exactly what she wants to do every day. And there was a lot of those things she wanted to do when we were running the business, and she couldn't focus on them and do them. And, I went to Alaska just last week for the second time in my life. And the first time I went with my son, trip of a lifetime. Well, now it's lifetime number 2. Back, and one of the young guys from the company I sold, he's still a salesman there, went with me. And when I told him how much it was, he just looked at me and said, "Can I send you $2,500 a month?" And I was like, "Sure." Because, you go on a trip like that, you got to make sure it's the right fit.
Yeah.
Personalities. So we had gone to Top Rep together in Wilmington. It was like the trial trip before I asked him if he wanted to go to Alaska for a week.
Yeah.
But, being able to do that and having the means to do it and not worry about it. And, we were sitting there at dinner and the fishing in the river was not too good. And I asked the owner, I said, hey, can you get us on the fly out again? And she's, well, let me go see. She comes back and she's like, I can, but it's more money. And I'm like, we're going.
Who cares?
We went back out. We flew out to a lake out in the middle of nowhere, fished again, limited out, and not worry about how much it was. And I'm watching him as a young man. He wasn't worried about it either.
I love that.
He loves hanging around with me and seeing how I do things. And he's the quiet accountant guy. You did his disc assessment.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
You told me he was a quiet accountant type, and you didn't know his father was my accountant for 7
No.
So, but yeah. And, but being able to do this stuff and not, and it's not like a wealth of stupid money. There's a difference. We still have to be careful, but we don't worry about it anymore.
No.
And
no.
that'll put years on our life.
Yeah. You got to put in perspective, because I would argue that it is stupid money compared to what most people have. John, you did pretty damn good. You're doing pretty damn good. I know we don't talk specifics, but I know how big your company was. I know how profitable it was. I know what kind of multipliers people get. And I know you did damn well. So congratulations.
But coming from where I came from, we look at it differently.
100%.
I used to be, I think I might have said this to you before. If I could go to the grocery store on Sunday and put anything in my cart that I wanted in the grocery store and pay for it and not worry about it affecting my other bills, that was success.
Yeah.
I was successful.
Yeah.
Because I could get my food and it didn't affect my electric bill or it didn't affect anything else. And it's funny because I still believe that's success. And obviously I can still do that now.
Yeah.
But for most of my life when I was in business, I could always do that. So in my mind, I've been successful for, 35 years in this business.
Yeah.
40 years. So.
That's what I love about you is you're having fun and enjoying the ride. You could spend more money, but you're still living basically very similar to the way you were before. I mean, we were talking about budgeting, and you're like, maybe I should get a budget. I'm like, I don't think you need a budget. You've got a built-in budget in your mindset that's going to keep you in check.
Yeah, Department of the Interior wants a budget. So, yeah, we'll put one together. So
what advice? I mean, back to the business, because I know people are listening to you going, geez, I want to be like John. What were the hurdles? What were the biggest challenges in hiring and expanding the sales staff, production systems? Like any takeaways for listeners on what they could be doing? I mean, the number one thing I would say is implement. You went to events, you hired vendors, you implemented the processes. Even with me, with Mindset, you took what you needed from me, you implemented it at a high level, and you got the results from it. So other than tell them just do it, like just implement the things you know you should be. And that's what I talk about in Mindset, is the gap between what we know and what we do. And you got to close that gap. You're one of the best I've ever met at closing that gap. I've got a good information. I've seen successful people use it. I'm now going to implement it in my business. Kind of talk on that a little bit for me, John.
Well, when you were teaching the knowing doing gap, I never got it. I didn't understand teaching. And the reason why is because we were doing it. And
you didn't have a gap. That was why I had to.
You don't understand it because you're doing it.
Yes.
You don't have to put the two together. One of the things that we did late in the game was we wrote everything down. Everything that every single person does in the office, we wrote it down. Their process, their job duties, what they say when they answer the phone. We wrote it all down. And we found that, like, if somebody left, we could take that paper and go through that list and divide it up. And in the end, we had some people leave. I had an operations manager. Sherry and I didn't have to do anything because he grabbed that process, that written process, and he divvied it up among some other people in the office till we filled the position. Then we had the other people in the office to help train the new person because they were doing that job. That writing your processes down and everything that happens was super important. when you go to an event, if you're going to spend money to go to an event, whatever event it is, and the statistics are 95% of the people that go to the events go home and they don't do anything. Well, I'm going to tell you what my team used to say. John and Sherry are at another event with their wealthy friends. And when they come back, everything's going to change. And that was the truth. Because I would sit in the mastermind and all these guys, these 10 or 12 guys, they were all on the hot seat. And you know them. You know some of them.
Yeah.
And one guy would have this problem. Everybody would help him solve it. Next guy had another problem. Everybody helped them solve it. So I didn't just have one problem. I went home and I solved all of those problems before the next meeting and took the notes. And some of them had some pretty big things. And I was like, wow, that's going to happen to me. I got to fix this before it happens. Most of the guys, they would fix their one thing when they went back. I would redo my systems and processes to fix 7 or 8 things.
I want to restate that for listeners because most people in the industry go to events because they have a problem that they're dealing with and they want a solution. And you would go to the event and you listen to everybody else's problems and anticipate that you might have it in your company and you fix it before you ever ran into it. There's a takeaway, listeners, right? Write that down. Next event you go to, listen to everyone's problems. And if you think there's a possibility you might run into it, be proactive. You know, it's funny, John, because you've probably heard me when I do get on stages, I make fun of the attendees. I say, a lot of you have been coming to these events for 20 years. You take pictures of the slides, you make the notes, you go back to your office, and the knowing doing gap remains the same. And for a lot of guys, it's the mindset. That's where I come into play. And I think my material is so helpful. Is not everybody is born and raised and has the implementation that John O'Leary does, because you are, I've said it 14 times already probably, but you take the information and you implement it. Even in retirement, you've never had this much money. So what did you do? You found advisors, you got information, you got coached on how to be a good investor now. And that's
exactly.
You know,
and that's one of the things that I find that helps is I've always had, and my wife wrote it down, I just read it again, but I've always had the expectation that things are going to work out. No matter what I would do, and she'll tell you that I'll say something or I'll, you don't get anything in life unless you ask for it.
Yes.
So I asked for an extra fly out on a trip to Alaska. The next day we were on the plane, a float plane flying out. And it's funny because about 4 or 5 times on this trip, I asked people for things out of the ordinary and we got them. And Sherry will tell you that it'll come out of my mouth and she'll be like, there's no way that they're going to do this for him. The next thing you know, they're doing it. And it's because you asked for it. And my expectation is that if I'm going to ask for it, I'm going to expect that they're going to do it.
And so many people are afraid to ask for it. I mean, when I work with and you went through this with me, the first module we work on is, what do you want? And most people are afraid to ask for what they want because they have some kind of limit around it. And you break that barrier. Besides being a master implementer, you ask for what you want. And because you believe it's possible. The other thing is too, you just have that optimistic, right? Everything's going to work out. And that's a mindset. And a lot of people I work with, I have to pull that. They're negatively, everything's always a problem, a challenge. And we have to shift the mindset to where you actually naturally were when I met you.
The thing is most people that I'm working with right now, they can't let go and give the job to somebody else. And one of the most valuable things that one of my friends that I'm still working with told me was, whatever is taking up all of your time, get somebody else to do it. And there's books out there. There's a book that 21 Irrefutable Ways of Leadership or something.
Mm-hmm.
Listen to it. I don't know I don't even know the real title, but I've listened to it 4 times.
Is it John Maxwell?
Yeah, your inner circle, those people have to be better than you. So when I was struggling with stuff, I would go to you. If I was struggling with business, I'd go to Brian. If I was struggling with sales, I'd go to Chuck. But then when I started hiring people, they had to be better than me at their job. The marketing manager. I was pretty good with the marketing we did, but I knew I was going to have to start spending money. She had to be a rock star. for me to hire. My operations manager, Jonathan, he dealt with people way better than I did. His personality,
Yes.
you know, uh, we struggled with the sales manager, but the salesmen, they had to be able to close at a higher rate than me with cold calls, because if they weren't, why would I have them? In my inner circle, every single person in there, I was okay with it.
Yeah.
Not a lot of owners are okay with their people being better than them.
Listeners, that's the takeaway. Hire people better than you, right? Get out of the way. And again, that's a subconscious block. The ego gets involved, the control paradigm of one to, well, I can't hire somebody to do, like you said, you couldn't believe the first time somebody sold a job for you, right? It's like,
we're going to do one of these guys. Yeah. And my production manager, he's still with the company, and he came from a large corporate company when he came to us. And about 3 years in, we were sitting around a leadership meeting, and he's like, and I said, "What's up?" He says, "I never thought it was going to be this busy." And when we were 12 weeks out doing 3 and 4 roofs a day, he was like, "How did this happen?" And we grew, we grew into that. And he knew me since 2009. And when he took the job with us, he was taking a chance.
yeah,
But I knew that if I could get out of production, I could get the sales doing better, and I could get him more work to do. But if I kept running trailers and going out to jobs, we weren't going to grow.
yeah,
And by the end, I was going to the office maybe twice a week. I did the EOS meeting. I did that meeting, the leadership meeting, and I might stop by one other time. I was only going to the office twice a week. I didn't have a desk there. I packed all my stuff up in a cardboard box and brought it home. And I actually felt weird when I did it. But I knew I had to, because my company had to operate without me in the end. And Sherry did the same thing. She got somebody in the seat, and she gave up her office, packed her stuff up in a box and brought it home. And that was about a year and a half before the sale, and about a year and a half before the sale. And I knew that I had the right people.
When did you guys implement EOS? Because that's a lot of success stories that I'm working with right now that are in process. We're seeing huge turnarounds. It's implementing EOS into the business.
2 years prior to the sale. Yep,
okay.
We were entering our 3rd year.
Okay.
And we were using 90. Brad got us in, he showed Sherry the app and said, look at this app we were doing it all on paper, As you look at this app, and what do you think happened 5 minutes after she saw the app?
We implemented.
We were signed up. And that, the EOS app really helped out a lot to lay out the plan and to lay out the accountability chart. And it took about a year for me to really get it. But once I got it, I sat in the meeting, and the only thing that I would help with was those things on the issues list that they needed an owner to make a decision.
Yeah.
Everything else, the leadership team, they all helped, even the marketing person or the production manager might help the office manager solve a problem, rather than the owner jumping in and try to solving all the problems.
Yeah.
So EOS, anybody that has a business should interview an implementer, read Traction, if you don't like reading long books, read What the Heck is EOS? That's what we gave to all our employees to read, and we implemented it. And I see that sometimes if you stop using it, I see the effects of what happens when you stop using it.
EOS helps the leader become a visionary and get out of all the seats.
Right.
And it helps accountability, right? I mean, that's the number one problem with implementation is we say we want to do it a certain way, and there's nothing to hold people accountable. And to me, I've seen, even in my own business and the companies I work with now that are practicing EOS the right way, it's accountability, right? It really is a game changer.
Well, you and I have a mutual friend. You were working with him before I started hanging out with him. And I'm just like him. I walk in a room and say, hey, we're going to do this, this, and this. And then I leave. It goes, you have to have rocks, and you have to have short-term, long-term to-dos, and there's a process to it.
Yes.
You're not allowed to do that. And then there's another owner that we both know that what he would do was a week, like during the week, he would put to-dos on the list.
Life.
Well, you're not allowed to put a to-do on the list unless there's an issue behind it. And he thought he could just add a bunch of to-dos to the list. And when he was saying that he was doing that, we're like throwing stuff at him in the meeting.
You can't do that, man.
You do that? Like, why not? And so I wasn't going to make the meeting, so I wanted to give people stuff to do. That's not the purpose.
No.
And
no.
it really, when they had their individual rocks for quarterly, monthly, weekly stuff, the to-dos, it stabilized it because everybody wasn't running around the office talking to each other.
Yeah.
Put it on the issues list if it's an issue.
Yeah.
You know?
Once a week you're
definitely EOS is definitely recommendation. And my implementer was okay. We had a personality conflict, but I hired her because, and I'm going to say it, she was a Jersey girl. Her family was from Greece. They owned diners. She was flipping burgers at 11 years old in one of her grandfather's diners, and she was hard. And I hired her because of that. And I might not have liked her, but she got the job done.
That's what you need. I mean, I've got, Jason Herbert. He's Ryan Henry's his implementer, and they caught face to face a couple times where Ryan was holding him to the fire and saying, "You got to get out of the way, or you got to break through the ceiling here." And
same thing with me. Same thing happened.
Yeah, you do have to get the right coach.
Yeah, keep it organized. Customer service is fine, but you have to take that to the next level because, like we've always said, everybody has satisfied customers. You need people like our customers wrote paragraphs on the reviews. We had 525 5-star reviews with a 5-star rating when the company, right before the company was sold.
I used to tease you that I was going to go give you a 1-star because you were so adamant about customer service.
So the whole mastermind group was like, I used to feel like I was in prison, like they had me captive. These reviews, and then one of the mastermind meetings, Jason picks up his phone. He says, "Why'd you fix that right now?" And I was like, "Whoa, don't do it." But I started to understand that, so most of the negative reviews that we had didn't mean anything. We either didn't work for them, or they were out of our area and they mistook us for one of the million O'Learys out in the world. Mm-hmm. So we really didn't have any, negative reviews. We made sure that in the end, whatever it took was to take care of that customer, because the 1-for-1, every customer you work for will get you another customer. Uh-huh. You have to sleep on every day. You need to work on making sure that one customer gets you another customer.
Well, that's the listener takeaway. The way John did what he did was taking care of the customer. I mean, he would lose sleep over his reviews. He was adamant that they had to take care of the customer. And the way to measure it was the reviews he was getting and customer service, doing the right thing for the customer, doing what you say you're going to do and following through. That was one of the principles that guided John on his journey. And I 100% support that. I mean, in my business, I'm in different side of the business now, but I'm all about customer satisfaction. If people aren't getting value and aren't willing to refer me, I'm doing something wrong.
Well, I had 35 reviews in 2018. And so in my spare time, I used to read negative reviews of roofers all around the country. And I figured out what they were all doing wrong, and I didn't do it.
There you went. You had learning from others again. I love it.
Clean up and communication. That was the two biggest negative reviews that they were getting. They would take the people's money, and people didn't hear from them again for like months. Then they would show up without calling them and start their roof. And then the cleanup was another big one. And I'll tell you, we cleaned our jobs up, and we had people telling us, "Don't call me anymore. I know you're stop calling me."
Yeah, I love that.
Emailing me, stop texting me, because we communicated with them so that they knew we were still thinking about them every day. Yeah, it wasn't just grab the money, do the job. We continued to communicate with people.
Oh, I love it. Well, John, been a great conversation. Anything else you want to share with listeners?
I will say that I was in Shawn's program twice. It's probably about 3 years ago now.
Yeah.
And even though the first time I was in it, I probably followed along 25%, about a quarter of the stuff. And then the second time was less, but I grasped it. If you do the work, this stuff, I'm a believer. I thought this worthy goal and talking in the mirror and writing it down, this was like the most hokey thing I ever seen in my life. It was almost like taking an iPad in the house and showing people how a roof works.
Right?
It's like the same thing. I was like, this isn't. But I have 3 properties that weren't for sale that I bought because I wasn't worried about how it was going to happen.
Forget what those of you that don't know my program, the first step is deciding what you want and forgetting about the how. And John's a master at it. He doesn't care how it happens. He's going to make it happen.
Yeah, it's going to happen. And it's pretty wild that how now that it's over, I look back and I'm like, man, it happens. And like the Jeep, it happens.
Yeah, tell the Jeep story real quick. Let's leave listeners with the Jeep story.
There was this company that would give cars away in Myrtle Beach for $100 a ticket, and they would sell 2,000 tickets for each car, and it was Corvettes and trucks with dirt bikes, and I would always buy a ticket or two. And every time I bought a ticket, I'd go down the hallway and I'd tell Sherry, "I'm going to win this Corvette," and I'd show it to her, and I'd say, "Isn't that cool? Isn't that a nice car?" And she's like, "Yeah, it's a nice car." And then the Jeep came. And she had a white Jeep on her vision board. And I was like, "Sherry, it's a white 4-door Jeep." I said, "We're winning it." So it was about 10:30 one night. I'm getting ready to go to bed. And the drawing was on for the Jeep. And I'm like, "Oh, that's cool, a drawing. I'm going to get to see one." And they pulled my name out. And I'm like, so I had to go to my computer and check my ticket number because it was this dude, Scott Gray. 2 Scott Grays won cars, and it was 2 different guys. And I knew about it. So I was like, I got to go check my ticket number. So I came in, checked my ticket number, and I won it. I went down the hallway, and I'll tell you, it was like one of the most exciting things that ever happened. Because I told her I was going to win it. And even though I might not have won some of the cars, that was building up to the Jeep.
Yeah.
Because I got to be honest with you, a Corvette in the Poconos, probably not such a good idea.
Well, you don't really like Jeeps, but Sherry really wanted one. You probably wouldn't have bought one, but you won one.
Never. I could have bought 10 Jeeps. But the thing is I don't like Jeeps. I drive a larger vehicle, and we've had it a year, and it has a whole 2,000 miles on it because it only goes to the grocery store and back. Because it's terrible on the highway. It sways all over the place. But anyway, so we have the Jeep. But the funny part about the Jeep was we had plans on getting a motorhome. And if I bought the motorhome, I was buying a Jeep anyway because I would have had to tow it. So it's the number one vehicle to tow. We towed it out to New York State for one of our first trips after we sold the business. Drove it all over the place, and it really, and what's that? What you think about, you bring about,
yes.
all these things that Shawn says, and not worrying about the how. It sounds hokey, but I have to say, and people that know me know that I would never stand in front of the mirror and say I'm going to get up every day like I'm on vacation. But every single one of them heard me say it for 3 years.
And now, how do you spend every day? Let's wrap with this, John. How do you spend every day?
I get to do anything I want when I get up in the morning.
Oh.
I get to do it. Sherry gets to do it. We can get up early. We can get up late. We can do anything we want to do now. We get to do it. And that freedom that came after the hard work, everybody's like, well, don't you wish it happened 5 years ago? It wasn't meant to be. And people say, well, why didn't you put your tool belt down 10 years ago and do this? I wasn't ready. I didn't met the right people, you know? So, but I definitely would talk more about it if anybody reached out.
Yeah. If people want to get a hold of you, John, what's the best way to get a hold of you? Do you have a...
You can email me through Facebook. I'm pretty easy to find on there. or get in touch with Shawn. His office can get you an email address to get with me. But I'd be glad to share the story because it has been inspiring. I have a company in Oregon right now. They were in a negative profit a year ago. They're in a positive 16% net profit right now. And I just been talking to them. Somebody asked me to help them because they were in really bad shape. And I just talking to them. And they're like, wow, we can do this because they were inspired by what we had done.
Well, and John, we talked offline a little bit. I had kind of restarted my life about a decade ago, and I'm in a process of build it back. And you shared with me, I'm going to get a little emotional here, how quickly you went from being 50 years old to being retired with more money than you actually know what to do with. So you are an inspiration to me. I appreciate your friendship. I appreciate you taking some of the words I gave you a few years ago, and enjoy the ride, man. Live every day like you're on vacation.
Appreciate it, Shawn. Anytime.
Thank you.
And just like that, we've laid another brick in the foundation of your incredible journey. Thanks for tuning into the Inner Blueprint podcast with Shawn Feurer, your navigator through the maze of mindset and success. Remember, every tool you need is already in your belt. It's all about how you use them to craft the masterpiece that is your life and business. Now, don't let the momentum stop here. Follow me on social media and subscribe wherever you get your podcast to never miss an episode filled with the blueprints to your best self.